The Sith are widely known for their use of the crimson red lightsaber blades, with the coloration widely regarded as an insult to the Jedi. The blades of the Jedi stained with blood. Many Sith of the Rule of Two era, including Palpatine, believed that he had grown beyond the use of lightsabers themselves, and now only wielded them as an insult to the Jedi that used them so proudly, mocking the fact that the Jedi considered their lightsabers their life. There were obviously very many Rule of Two era Sith though that would disagree with this evaluation of the lightsaber, who were esteemed swordsmen and warriors in their own right. Darth Maul and Darth Tyrannus, not to mention the great power of Darth Vader, all Sith Lords that mastered the lightsaber and regarded it as one of their finest weapons, all Sith that utilized the crimson, blood-stained blades. However, were there any Dark Lords of the Sith that utilized lightsabers that were not red in coloration? Of course there were. And today, we will discuss those Dark Lords. To begin though, I would like to debunk one Sith Lord's use of a purple lightsaber, that being the Dark Lord of the Sith that established the Rule of Two, Darth Bane. In lots of fan art and illustrations of Darth Bane, he's shown wielding a purple lightsaber. However, Bane never actually utilized a purple lightsaber or a lightsaber any other color than red. Darth Bane's lightsaber in the novelizations are constantly described as crimson, even a deeper red crimson that is typical. Bane's saber was a single-bladed, curved hilt crimson blade. Now, let us discuss Sith Lords that use different colored blades than red. For starters, Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader. After he was deemed a Dark Lord of the Sith, Skywalker did not have time to bleed his Jedi crystal, and thus utilized his Jedi weapon during the Jedi Purge in Order 66. Obviously though, Vader did have intentions to bleed his lightsaber before it was cut from his hand by Obi-Wan Kenobi. Vader obviously though would eventually construct a new lightsaber, bleeding a brand new lightsaber crystal, and thus inheriting the crimson blade of the Sith. Another example from Star Wars Legends is the Sith Lord Darth Crate, who utilized a green-bladed lightsaber in conjunction with a crimson blade, as he was a practitioner of Jar-Kai dual-blade fencing. The reason Darth Crate had one green lightsaber was because it was his father's weapon, a weapon gifted to him upon his father's death, and was a weapon that Crate wielded through all of his time as a Jedi. Despite now being a Sith Lord, the weapon still held great value to Crate, and it is because of this that Crate opted to use this weapon even though he had fallen to the darkness. Now though, let us discuss a Sith Lord that never used a red lightsaber at all. Exar Kun. Exar Kun utilized a dual-bladed dark blue lightsaber, and although the dual blue-bladed weapon was obviously not crimson, the blade itself was embedded with dark side energy. The reason Exar Kun never utilized a red blade was that he represented the very return of the Sith, being a former Jedi himself, and taking it upon himself to re-establish the Sith Order. Exar Kun was the first Sith in centuries following the death of Freed and Nad, and therefore believed that he was ushering in a new era. As a Jedi, Exar Kun utilized a single-bladed blue lightsaber, but once he turned to the dark side, crafted a second emitter onto his Jedi weapon, making the weapon dual-bladed. Exar Kun then imbued his original Jedi crystal with the dark side. Since Exar Kun perceived himself as the returned Sith, is also why he never took upon himself the title of Darth. It is completely possible that Exar Kun was never even informed about the tradition of the red lightsaber, as his Sith master was a Sith spirit, that being of Freed and Nad. Next up is another Legends character, the Dark Lord and Butcher, Warb Knoll. Warb Knoll wielded a long-handled lightsaber similar to that of a light club, but if a trained eye were to examine the weapon more closely, they would identify a second emitter, revealing the weapon as dual-bladed. The main blade of Warb Knoll was of course crimson, however the second blade was green in coloration. Although the weapon was in fact dual-bladed, Warb Knoll was only ever seen wielding a single blade at a time. Of course, most commonly, the green lightsaber. The reasoning behind why Warb Knoll actually had a green lightsaber blade is completely unknown, but it may have been used as a way to shock his enemies, or potentially even an insult to the Jedi that he fought against. But again, we don't actually have an official explanation as to the dual blade setting. The final example that we have of a Sith Lord that utilized a different colored lightsaber is actually the Dark Lord Sidious himself following his resurrection in Legends Legends continuity. Instead of using a red blade, Sidious used a light blue blade following his resurrection, with no clear explanation for this ever given. Typically though, Sidious would fall upon his use of the Force, just as he had in his previous life, typically using his lightsaber as a first resort, but always primarily depending on his Force abilities. Now, to end off this list, I would like to talk about obviously the most famous Sith not to use a red lightsaber, or to use another lightsaber in conjunction with his red blade. Of course, I'm talking about Revan. Revan utilized a purple lightsaber in conjunction with his red lightsaber as a Sith Lord. As a Jedi, Revan's lightsaber was green, meaning that the reasoning behind why Revan wielded a purple lightsaber was different than that of his Jedi path. Typically though, Revan did stick to a single lightsaber, his red crimson blade, and only utilized his second purple lightsaber in certain situations and circumstances. And as a bonus, I'll discuss one more, Ulic Qel-Droma, the apprentice of Exar Kun, and for the same reasoning as Exar Kun, utilized a green lightsaber, as the reborn Sith had not yet adopted the ancient traditions of the older Sith. In the end though, I do ultimately agree with George Lucas, that the Jedi should use the green and the blue to signify their purity, and the Sith red. I am open to more ideas though, of Sith potentially using lightsabers that were different colors. Again though, this list doesn't consist of all the Sith that use lightsabers that were not red, just the most famous ones. But now I would love to hear your thoughts on this. How would you feel about seeing more Sith utilize green or blue lightsabers, or lightsabers overall that are not red in coloration? Is this something that you would like to see more often in Star Wars canon? Or are you happy with the villains utilizing crimson blades, and of course the heroes green and blue blades? As always, my friends, thank you guys so much for your constant support of the channel. It means the world to me. May the Force be with you, and have a great day.